I want to bring on the guys from Heads Up Hustle. If you guys haven't heard, it was really kind of the first of its kind for a regional drag and drive for sure. So we're going to have John Paul Franks on and the overall event winner, Carl Balzer, on to discuss the event and the fun they had. Now, if you don't know who Carl is, he's a longtime friend of the Narcoleptic channel and has been watching Drag and Drive for a long time. John Paul's the same way. He actually came to the circuit back in April and had intended to race, but the car just wasn't ready yet. And then, guys, I just want to say this before they get on because it's going to embarrass them. The content creation during Heads Up Hustle for all the stuff was awesome. I don't know who he had to do that. We're going to talk about that here in a minute, but it was great to see all of the shots, all the videos and things like that they took. So let's bring John Paul on first. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Oh man, I'm excited to do this, man. It's going to be fun. You had a great event, a lot of cool racers, a lot of cool cars, and tons of really neat stuff. I'll say that a lot of really neat cars, a lot of really good stories are going to come from that event, and a lot of definitely future drag and drive racers. So, kind of tell us who you are. Obviously, some of the events you've competed in, and then the car you typically race.
Yeah, so my name's John Paul Franks. I'm from Central Indiana, and I normally race the '88 Fox Body Mustang with a small block Ford naturally aspirated setup. My first drag and drive was Sick Week in 2022, the inaugural Sick Week. I didn't win anything, but I was second in naturally aspirated small block, but there's no awards given out for
Nice.
Obviously, Jason Tapscott had to he had to beat me pretty good there. So I was going to do Rocky Mountain Race Week in 2021, but got COVID and wasn't able to do that. So
dang,
we ended up doing Sick Week instead, which was fun.
Yep.
I was going to be, like you mentioned, at your race, the circuit, but we were doing some engine stuff and didn't get it back together in time. So
and I think you had told me there it would have been a huge thrash to get it done. And man, we know how thrashes work. When you're thrashing to get a car ready and there's no time for testing and driving around, it's almost too hard to come compete.
Yeah, it was a big thrash. We had the motor in the car to test fitment because the port height on the exhaust was different because of different heads. We had it out of the car, and then we got it on the engine dyno, and we tore up a rod bearing on the engine dyno. So then that was with like 12 hours to leave, and we threw the towel in.
Yeah, like no, please no. Well, before we bring Carl on, can you kind of give us the format of the event, and then we'll talk about some of it, and then we'll bring him on to obviously talk about all the stuff.
Sure. Yeah. So Heads Up Hustle, we did try to do a eliminations and then qualifying style drag and drive. So similar to how a large Heads Up race would be run, whether it's an NHRA race or a big radial race. So the idea is that we have day 1 and 2 where you go qualify, we average those together, and then we set elimination ladders based on that. So at the end of the day, to win, you have to beat the guy next to you. You have to not red light. You have to, have your tune up on point to win the race you're in.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you feel like it worked? Did it work well? Did people enjoy it like you thought they would?
I think so. We had a lot of good feedback. Most people, even if let's say you were in Daily Driver, which had 10 cars in it, and you went out first round, you still had an opportunity to make multiple passes on Friday, multiple passes on Saturday, and multiple passes on the last day before, by eliminations. Everyone got a test hit Sunday morning before eliminations. So even if you did go out first round, you still had a lot of time to have fun and go hang out with your race car friends.
Right. So would they submit their time that they wanted to turn in for their qualifying? Is that how that would work?
Yeah, just like most drag and drives, they have to bring the time slip to us and submit it, and then we put everything in an Excel spreadsheet and did it from there.
That's awesome. Well, which tracks did you guys visit? And then let's talk about some classes.
Yeah, so Milan Dragway was our home track. That's I race there a lot. It's not necessarily my home track, but it's also I race there the most. Tracks. Cool. I have the class for my naturally aspirated small block car there. And then we drove up to Lapeer, Michigan, and we went to Lapeer International Dragway up there. And we were like 5 to 10 minutes from having a rain out there when we got a break in the weather and got dry on the track, and we got the track dried and prepped and got everything done. We rained all 3 days, but we didn't have a rain out. So
that's great. Well, we saw Dan Chandler making comments earlier talking about pulling the the jet dryer for
Yep.
like an hour in one of the race cars. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
got a square body GMC Jimmy, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, he was a great person to have there, and yeah, the track's golf cart they normally pull the blower with. It went down, and we're like, "Hey, do you want to pull?" He's like, "Sure, we'll do it. It's a street
Hook it
truck."
up. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I can idle no problem, and I'm sure he's just making laps down there. So
Yep.
that's pretty fun. Well, Carl was one of the winners. He was the overall guy as well. So we're gonna bring him on. But some of the other class winners that you wanna shout out to?
Yeah, so I want to shout out to Joshua Burt. He's been at Midwest Drags in the past. He won Daily Driver, and Aaron Roberts in the Blue Mustang. He was a runner-up in Daily Driver.
Nice.
Um, and then in small tire, we had TJ Linebaugh. He won, and the runner-up in that class was Matt Wilson with both cool cars. TJ's wagon, the Wonder Wagon, it's pretty
Oh
sweet,
yeah.
like a 90-some millimeter turbo LS and an
Yep.
old wagon. We had a full-size truck class, and Shane Malley won that with a supercharged Coyote 10-speed, sort of
Wow.
late model drivetrain,
Yep.
four-wheel drive, sweet truck. Dan Chandler in the square body Jimmy came in, had a runner-up in that class. In National Aspirated Small Block, we had Derek Adams win that class, and Joe. I can't pronounce his name correctly, but DiGiovanni, I believe, is how you say that.
Nice.
So he was the runner-up in National Aspirated Small Block. Carl Balzer, who we'll have here, I guess you're having on as well. He won stick shift, and the runner-up was Rex French. Open comp was Nathaniel Darnell. Runner-up Anthony Churchwell, and we had Greg Furchak in motorcycle, the winner.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, let's bring Carl on because, like I said, he's been a long time friend of the channel and brands, and um, we actually met him at. Well, I'll tell the story. He was nice enough to let us park with him at Cletus and Cars Indy way back when. What was that, 2021, dude?
I think so.
Yeah. 2021 or 2020. No, it wasn't 2020, but yeah, 2021 is when it was.
Yeah, it was a good time. I feel like that was 10 years ago now.
Yeah, it was a long time.
I mean, we drove the Narcs cart up from Arkansas to Indianapolis. We end up in the grass parking, and I like ran up and I was like, "Please, can we park by you?" He's like, "Yeah, man, come on up." So we had two carts right next to each other. It was really cool. So why don't you introduce yourself? Obviously, Hidden Motorsports is your brand, and then tell us about Klaus the Barbarian.
Yeah, I'm Carl Balzer, one of the owners for Hidden Motorsports. We got a nice shop out here in Toledo, Ohio, and hopefully the quality and you can hear me fine. All of a sudden we lost Wi-Fi at 9 o'clock because there was a scheduled maintenance at 9 o'clock. And I'm like, that would happen. So I have it pulled up on my phone right now. So hopefully everything's pretty well.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've been around for about 6-7 years now. Just kind of actually started off in home garages, messing around with BMWs and Europeans, working on them ourselves. And then that sprawled to the LS world and kept going from there. And Klaus is my 95 BMW 325i. Now, it started off as a two-door coupe, and then we took some Sawzalls to it. Maybe had a couple of drinks while we were doing it. We just kept chopping it all up, adding an exo cage on it, and it was supposed to be a $2,000 to $5,000 budget eBay junkyard build, meant to thrash around off-road and just do whatever you want to do with it, but that spiraled hard.
What's the car make now? Like 1,200 or something like that?
Quite a bit more actually. So when it was a 5.3 with just a Texas Speed rods and pistons, it made 1,150 wheel horsepower. And then we did a full Texas Speed short block 6.0, and that actually recently, right before Indy, made 1,415 horsepower. And now, because I've been saying we've gone through like 4 engines, because if you realize these Cletus and Cars burnout comps and everything else that we do with the car just beats the crap out of it. So I was like, if it ever lets go again or something happens, I'm just going to get a 427. And that's actually what we finished up about 2 weeks ago. Literally the week of the Drag and Drive event, we were still tuning it and getting it ready and started. So now we actually didn't even get a chance to put it on the dyno. We just had to like street tune it. And on the lowest setting, it's around 1,000 to 1,100 horsepower, and that's really fun to street tune at that power level.
I can only imagine. And still a stick shift car?
Oh, absolutely. It was original just a T56 Magnum, and now we actually are partnered with Granis Racing, and we have a billet T56 Magnum with carbon blockers, billet gears, billet front plate, pump, sprayers, everything in it.
Dude, that's awesome. All right, well, let's talk about Heads Up Hustle, because the reason you haven't been on here before is because you had not competed in the Drag and Drive. You've actually been on the Narcoleptic podcast at least once, and at one point carried the show for 20 minutes while my internet went out in the shop. So appreciate that. You guys will have to go back and find that on Narcoleptic Customs. So guys, let's talk about like route stops and kind of some, your favorite cars, all that kind of stuff. So let's start with route stops. Where did you guys stop on this event?
Well, I believe our first stop was it the Performance Shop, I believe?
Yeah, it was La Fontaine Performance.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a pretty good one. Friday was kind of a blur to us because we went into this event really thinking the car wasn't going to make it 10 miles past Milan at all. And as soon as we left Milan, we actually got caught in what started as a tornado. We have it all on video. It was torrential thunderstorms, blinding wind. We couldn't see anything. And that lasted for about 10 minutes. It was a nightmare, but fun. We're like sitting there laughing, crying, screaming while this is happening. Like literally branches flying by us through the car. I'm like, this was fun.
Nice. That's good for you. That's good for you, right?
Oh yeah. It started it off the trip right.
And then where else did you guys stop? Did you stop on the way back somewhere?
Yes, we had two stops. High Octane Cafe is actually a fellow racer, Tom Llewellyn. Him and his wife run that. Yep. And beautiful little cafe with great food. And then he also stopped at the Roush Automotive Collection. Saw some really cool, collection of Jack Roush's cars there.
That's cool. That's I would think a great area of the country for that kind of stuff, because you're obviously right around Detroit. So, did you guys have a dedicated route?
We did. It was optional. I'm not sure. Carlo, did you guys drive most of the route, or?
Yeah, actually we did. We had to pull off from the route a little bit because the car runs on E85 and it's not everywhere, but it's usually close. And then we circled right back to the route map, and we actually put our phone navigation away. And my navigator, Chris, I was like, hold that paper. We're going to do it old-fashioned MapQuest way, and we're going to do it just straight off the paper, no other help.
Yeah. We hoped we got it right. We tested it, but I guess it was okay because most people made it back.
Yep.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I kind of feel like with regional events, you don't have to be a Nazi about the directions. Kind of, hey, this is here's the route we suggest. We'd love for everybody to take it, but if you get turned off of a different spot, you don't, it's not like, oh man, I've got to go all the way back now. I think that's probably the best way to handle regional events.
It seemed to work fairly well. We had people love the event, so hopefully we can improve it for next year. We sure made some mistakes here and there, but we'll try to learn from them.
I thought it was a phenomenal event. Best drag and drive I've ever went to.
I appreciate that.
That's right. That's right.
I just thought it was cool. You guys drove a car with no doors, no roof, and barely a windshield through a tornado. Basically,
yeah.
You guys were like wet dogs when you got to the hotel that evening. You're just
it was
straight and got cleaned up.
Oh yeah, it was not fun, but it was fun just rolling 4 deep with 3 other of your best friends, hauling a beer draft concession trailer from Ernest Brewworks. The trailer alone weighs about 1,800 pounds, and we probably put about another 500 pounds in it. So this car towed almost 2,500 pounds plus 4 200-pound dudes running consistent low 9-second passes on our lowest power setting.
Wow. That's pretty awesome.
So who was all with you on the trip?
We had myself, and then we had Chris Brinkman, and then we had my media guys. We had Hallie, and then we had Ethan as well. So you've seen them. They're on the YouTube channel if you guys watch that occasionally.
Yeah. Hidden Motorsports.
Absolutely. It's fun. And we're going to try something on this one. So we normally just post like the daily vids if we're doing an event. We're going to try to do like a movie style setup, like a 40-minute long, like cinematic look to document the entire trip and the event. So we're going to try our hand at that and see how that plays out and see how well accepted it is.
Yeah,
That should be
I
cool.
think, I think with what Sick is doing with their Sick the movie stuff, I think it works. I think people that way they can sit down. It may take them 2 or 3 times to get through it, before they can watch the whole thing. But I think that's probably a great way to test the waters. And 5 years from now, when you look back, it's one video. It's not the whole 70 videos on a playlist you're putting together. So it's a good idea.
Absolutely, it's fun.
So was there any crazy repair stories or any carnage throughout the week?
We did have some. I think Carl, you had a relay for your fuel pump that all the water in your car messed up.
We thought it was actually because we have 2 big fuel pumps, and I thought just one of them failed. We switch around the power wires because the other one doesn't come on until you're about 1,200 horsepower. I was like, we don't need that. We'll swap it around. It's doing the same thing, and I hear the relay clicking. So we took it apart, put it back in. It's still doing the same thing. I was just like, this stupid thing. I just picked it up and started beating it, and it worked great the whole rest of the weekend.
That is typically the first way to try and fix something.
Yep, we just hit it.
Especially when it's on like a fuel pump.
Oh, yeah. After that, everything worked fine. We didn't have any ourselves. We didn't have any breakdowns until the celebration at the end. Then we had a slight mishap.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that in just a second for sure. How about some of your favorite cars of the event? Both you guys, stuff that you saw that you liked.
My favorite car was Sean Dixon's. It was what year is it? It's a 58 Ford Ranchero gasser, big lifted front end, straight axle, like candy paint, red candy paint, like beautiful car.
It was,
and that was that's the biggest carnage we had. Also, he had a rocker break in half. It's a Ford FE motor, big block Ford, and he had a rocker just completely snap. And fortunately, he was able to, take the rocker off, take the spark plug out, and we heard him like a mile away with the spark plug out, running on 7 cylinders, coming to the hotel.
Yeah.
And they got to the hotel and just parked it for the night. And in the morning, they took it apart, and there was all the push rods on that side were tore up. There was oiling issues. So he unfortunately didn't finish, but that was my like coolest like car. I just think that vintage gasser style is really neat.
Yeah, that was actually my favorite car as well. But then my second favorite was, I don't remember gentleman's name. I only think we waved, but he was in our class of stick shift. He had the white Cobra Jet that was running like mid-5s. He's done multiple drag and drive event or multiple 8.5s. I forgot his name.
Tyler Garlock, yeah.
Yes, that car was nasty. Going off the line, like we're changing tires. I'm like, what is that going down the track?
He trapped over 170 on his first run.
Yep.
Evil.
And that set the mood for us because we're just unloading in the morning. He's making passes running 8s at 170. We're like, well, we don't have a chance, but let's just go out there and have fun. That's something we also did too, is since the motor had 30 miles on it, purposely did not fill our CO2 boost bottle. So that way we did not hurt it. It ran on 10 pounds the whole weekend. I'm like, this way we will not turn it up and hurt it.
Dude, how hard was that when you got back to the track on it was Sunday, right? Your last day was Sunday?
Yep.
Yeah. How hard was that?
Oh, I wanted to, because Sunday we actually
I was telling him where we could get CO2 filled.
I know. There's all this peer pressure everywhere coming.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just tried to. Actually, the whole weekend we didn't even use two-step. We were just rolling out of the line, running like 9.5s. And then Sunday, I was like, okay, we made it. Everything's holding up. Well, let's just try a little launching off a two-step, and instantly took over 0.3 of a second off and got us down to 9.2. And I looked at the log. I was like, oh man, it made so much boost. And the log just said -1 instead of normally -10. I was like, oh, well then this car is going to be an animal once we're at 25 pounds of boost and leaving at like 6 or 7 pounds of boost.
Yeah. And then what rear axle do you have in that car?
It's actually your stock BMW 740i large case diff. Nothing is.
What?
Yep, good old Lincoln locker that I put in it. Put some metal plates in, welded it all up, and that's been the same diff that's been in the car for 3 years.
Wow. And then who does your axles?
Axles, we got Seems Legit Garage, and what they do is they partnered up with G-Force axles, so they gave them their specs, and then G-Force makes them to the specs.
How cool, man.
They said unbreakable, and I'm like, I will be testing that.
Yeah, I mean, you're leaving on 6 or 7 pounds. I can imagine the struggle that car has. Well, let's talk about this wild celebration you hinted at earlier.
It was actually kind of like the second wild celebration, because I'm all for, this car gets daily driven. It goes to multiple like 2 and 3 day drift events every year, probably 6 or 7 burnout comps and tons of drag racing. So Friday at like 4, as we were packing up, Milan was doing a slide event or skid event. I haven't heard about it before, but they did this event in their concrete pad. It's just kind of like the takeover stuff, but legal, where you can do burnouts, sliding, and all this. I'm like, this is what I'm really good at. So we changed a set of tires that we had in the race trailer, put them on, and drifted, and just basically did our own little burnout contest for about 2 minutes, popped both tires, picked up the pieces, swapped, put on the road tires, and then drove 150 miles or something like that north. Then on Sunday, after winning, they had another skid event. So we did it then, and we took like their promoter, the announcer, I forgot his name. We took him for the joyride. What was that again?
It's Little Carter.
Little Carter, yes. He got in, he was in the passenger seat, and we took him drifting. And then minute and a half into it, I start sliding around. The car's like looping. I'm like, what is going on? And then I guess everyone's waving their hands. Control arm mount got ripped out of the unibody, like just completely. It didn't like the abuse. And I'm like, that would have sucked if that happened at 150 miles per hour. So it's kind of a good thing.
Have done that at 150 going straight.
That's true. But yeah, after more looking into it, the mount is attached to the body by, it looked like 2 1-inch welds. So we're going to replate both sides and strengthen it up pretty well.
Dude, I knew I liked you. I knew I liked you from the very beginning.
No, they're race cars. They're meant to be beat up. That's just kind of how I am too. Like, no disrespect to any, like the hardcore drag racers, it's their race car, but I respect someone that can drive. It can do more. It's not just a one-trick pony. It can do more stuff. It can do burnouts. It can do drifting. It can do daily driving. That's what I like, doing everything.
Well, and I mean, that's what Klaus is. And some of the other stuff you guys built has been that same style. I mean, obviously the other cars aren't as visually wild, but as performance wise, I mean, dude, they're awesome too. It's a fun channel to watch is what I'm telling everybody.
Yeah, we just have a lot of fun. Just started off as a bunch of guys in the garage, and we still have that same attitude. We just like to goof around and have fun. There's times we just throw nitrous on mini bikes just because, and we'll see what happens.
That's awesome.
Are there any sponsors you want to give shout outs to?
Oh, there's tons. Yeah, I made a big, huge post, and I actually had to sit down for a while, remember, because there's so many companies and people that have partnered with us over the years that helped us out. The main ones have always been Ernest Brewworks, Texas Speed and Performance, Granis Racing, X Clutch USA, and Motion Raceworks have said that. And then I have to plug our charity. It's Skids for Kids USA. If you guys have seen that around, we raise money and toys for the local children's hospital wherever we go. It's a great thing to get involved with, and so you're doing it for the kids. Like, that's something we say all the time. Like, even before I met Andrew and the rest of Skids for Kids, we had like a hashtag saying "Do it for the kids," because at the Clears events, most car shows, people say, "Look, but don't touch, don't do this." Before events, I'm literally letting 4, 5, 7-year-old kids sit in the driver's seat, hit the start button, hit 2-step on the car. And people are like, "Are you crazy?" I'm like, our sport, like it or not, is dying. And if you don't get these kids excited about loud engines and gasoline, it's going to disappear. So that's why I let them. Yeah, it's probably not the best on the car, but those kids, like, I literally get mails and emails from like 3 years ago, you let us start up the car and do this. We haven't forgot it. We love you. And I'm like, that's awesome. There's all kinds of fun stuff.
John, do you have any sponsors you want to shout out?
Yeah, we want to thank AFCO Racing Shocks and Cooling. They're a big sponsor for us. Also, GT Performance Turbos. this neighbor of mine who builds performance racing turbos, and Motor City Muscle Challenge. It's actually it's the series I race in at Milan. It's a naturally aspirated 9-inch tire heads up class. So those are our sponsors for the event this year, and hopefully, we can bring some value to them and grow their brand as well.
Yeah, for sure. We appreciate, obviously, the sponsors being part of any kind of car stuff. That helps all of us, do what we want to do and grow and stuff. Let's start with John, though. What did you learn from this event that you're going to take into like the 2024 event? And then we'll move to Carl and ask kind of how this event will change your next event that's coming up.
Well, I mean, I guess the biggest thing I learned is you think you get everything prepared and it's not. So you got to learn to be flexible and, try to just overcome the challenges that come up. The other big thing is I was just reminded by when you have quality people who help you, you can just rely on them. And I'm so thankful for Rick Dodge doing my tech. He was amazing. For Thomas Robb, one of my best friends, and he helped me put the event on. And then the McKenna family, they killed it on social media. And then Brian, he's the father for that family. He did amazing work with the spreadsheets and keeping tabs of everything timing related. So surround yourself with people who know what they're doing. And that I guess that's more what I learned was that, that's important. And it really, without them, it wouldn't have happened.
Right. And let's stay on the social media real quick, because the Heads Up Hustle Instagram for sure is what I saw the most of on my feed. The quality of stuff that you guys put out and the consistency you put out was really, I mean, on par with any other event that I've ever seen, and probably more than anything I've seen, to be honest. It was
Wow. Well,
really
that's
impressive.
all due to Asher and Ezra McKenna. They're actually neighbors and friends of mine, and that's what they do for work. But they said, "Hey, we'll come out," and I hired them to help me do my social media. And
that's great.
We had a mistake. The Instagram setting where you share everything from Instagram over to Facebook, somehow during the middle of the event, it got turned off. So
that would be why I saw more on Instagram.
I'm gonna have to go back and repost that stuff to Facebook. So
yeah, the media team was great. Some of the videos and reels that they made, I was like, man, you make me look good. I like this.
Yeah, high quality stuff. That's cool. So make sure you're, for all the folks that are watching this, make sure you're watching Heads Up Hustle and following them on all social media.
Yep.
And then Carl, what'd you learn? Because you've got an event coming up that we'll talk about here in a second too. So what'd you learn that you're going to take from here into the event you're going to host?
Oh, for event hosting, I did kind of like everything. Like, it was so well ran. You would have think that this event's been going on like it was its 20th consecutive year or something. Like, it was just so well ran. Nothing. We had not one single complaint, because I host a lot of events too. So, we all do it. Sometimes you get a little nitpicky. You're like, oh, I would have done this better or this. But no, everything I felt was really great. I had no complaints and like no other input. At the end, John was asked, he's like, hey, what could we change? What could we do? I was like, honestly, nothing. Do the same thing again.
That's great. That's great.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
What did you learn from a competitor standpoint that you'll use on your next event?
Honestly, from like the big people in our class that broke and stuff, they all had their cars on full kill and on the limit. And I kind of went in like, well, it's not a sprint race, it's a rally. We're driving hundreds of miles. So if I built my car to be this much, I should probably back it down to make sure it lasts for the whole weekend. And I guess that paid off and worked for us. So that's probably what we'll do. Plus, we don't have the money to rebuild a motor every other week.
That is true. I can understand that. Well, I definitely want to say thank you to John Paul for coming on and talking about the event. This won't be the last time you're on, obviously talking about this, because, I mean, am I right in saying that this is going to happen in 2024?
Yes, it's possible we'll be back in 2024.
That is
most
great.
likely at Milan Dragway and another track as well.
Oh, perfect, man. That's awesome. It's always good for folks to have that opportunity to race at tracks they've never been to. And then, Carl, let's talk about the event you're hosting here in just a couple weeks. Kind of give us a rundown of it and the name and where people can find all that info.
Yeah, it's called No Half Cents 2023. You can find it on Facebook and also thefote.com, which I'm sure most everyone watching or all these racers know what the Fote is. That's
Mhm.
the website that we can sell the tickets. So we did it in 2020 at Norwalk at the very end. And so it's kind of like a 6-hour test and tune. So we have Summit Motorsports Park, Norwalk, Ohio. We have the track the entire day. We have about 6 hours of hot time. So it's about 5 hours of test and tune. We're also going to have roll racing mixed in with it, Power Wheels racing, pit bike racing, lots of stuff for kids. 10 Scale Garage is hosting an RC drift event, like with the little RC
sweet.
things. It's
Yeah.
completely crazy. It's so sweet. And then their speed shop, our local speed shop, is sponsoring a streetcar shootout. And it's basically $1,000 to the winner, quick 8 shootout, or whoever wants to sign up. We're going to do it's either 8 or 16. $1,000 for the winner. And streetcar. People are like, what do you mean a streetcar? Like, is your car a streetcar? I'm like, I can officially say I'm a certified streetcar now.
That's right.
That's right. I try to tell everyone, I'm like, the drag and drive rules, license, insurance, registration. They're like, well, how do you know this? I'm like, can your car comfortably drive 40 miles? Well, no, my car will overheat in 10 miles. I'm like, well, then it's not really a street car then, is it?
Yeah. My brother calls those town cars.
Yeah, you can't. You're running on full meth all the time, and you have a 5-gallon fuel cell and no radiator. I'm like, you don't have a street car anymore. As much as you want to, you just don't. But it's just like a nice family friendly event. And the last time that we hosted it, we got so many good compliments about it. People were kind of mad because last year we couldn't do it because with the staffing issues due to COVID still, they couldn't host another private rental for us. So we couldn't do it. But then this year we were able to secure it. It was actually back in May is when it was supposed to be, but it was completely thunderstorms the whole weekend. So it's scheduled for August 20th now. It's $140 to race and $15 to watch. And it's all day fun. There's going to be food trucks, merch trailers. Can't announce it because they asked me not to announce, but there's going to be some faces that people recognize in the YouTube world that are going to be there, but they didn't want me to advertise it. So they're going to show up. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. And like my hopes are, as this keeps going, I really want to call it or something like the Exo Kart Nationals at the event. I want all the fastest Exo cars. So, if you know anyone like with a Crown Vic or something like that.
Hey, listen, it'll straight up run some 13.
Yeah, I want them all to show up and we'll prove the fastest Exo cars in the world. Just, another fun thing to do.
Yeah. Yep. That's right. Well, if we still have the car, we'll definitely be there. And, if we don't, we'll make the new owner bring it up. So
absolutely. It's just a gigantic fun event. The rules, like the roll racing, everything, it's fixed rules, but it's one of those things like if some people are not interested in this stuff, I'm like, hey guys, I'm open. Let's start doing this and do different things. It's gonna be a fun time. The last event, there's also a video on our YouTube channel from the last event, so you can see an example of what the event's like, and it's just a blast. And it's Norwalk, like that's my hometown, that's where I'm from, and I call that track an elite track because it is top notch. It's great. I love that track.
That's awesome. Well, guys, thank you very much again. I appreciate it very much. You guys coming on, spending some time with us tonight, talking about events. This is, again, there have been 17 drag and drive events this year already. There was 11 total last year, and there's already been 17, and you guys are a big part of one. So that's always a huge win for the community. So again, thanks a bunch for coming on. We've got Kyle Beaumont in the background, who he is part of the Stroll part of the Central Illinois Streetcar Shootout in Stroll. Is there a link? Yeah, Carl, can you drop the Hidden Motorsports link in the chat? That'd be awesome.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right, cool. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Awesome. Hey, thank you. We'll see you later.
See y'all.
Bye.
Dude, I like those guys a bunch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, jump on.